We're rolling on Research Forest right now. We just arrived. It's 7:29 a.m. My brother and I are wearing our classic team kit. And so I wanted to do this intro because when we leave the house, it's still dark. You can't see anything. So we'll get some clips for you all. It should be interesting.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled into the woodlands. It was a foggy morning. We picked up Team RR, went down Research Forest. On Fishcreek, we started to film. The pace was high. We filmed all the way into Honia. Once we got past 2854, we went ahead and broke off from the group. We took 1097, also known as Bethel Road, going through the forest. We passed 149 there, did a loop, came back on 149, and took it all the way down to Bailey Grove. We turned off the camera when we got on Bailey Grove Road. We took that, went down the Gorilla Route the opposite way into Dacus, Mount Moriah Road, into Bobville. Once we passed Bobville, we filmed on Jackson Road, back into 149. We turned it off before we got to Karen, then took 1488 eastbound into the woodlands. It was a very pleasant day. We ended up doing a little over 7 hours. But I think you will enjoy the clips that we did get for you. We're on Fishcreek Boulevard. We just finished the warm-up. I back off the pace here intentionally because people don't want to go to the front. See those two guys up there in the distance? They're riding with us. So we just let the gap continue to open. We figure at some point they'll come around.
Rolling the same speed. I said rolling the same speed. There we go.
Now they decide to come around. Because I just plan to sit in today. I didn't plan to do anything.
You be working hard here, right? Right, Mark?
So throughout the warm-up, we end up at the front, even though we really didn't want to be at the front. So once we turned on this street, I just turned off the pack. So now Paul has slipped in the line. We're about mid-pack here because there's a bunch of people back there still leaving a huge gap. You see me roll to the front here in front of Paul. So we plan to just sit in because we've got a long day in the saddle. I told him I had to take off my glasses because they got all steamy at the last intersection. It's foggy. I have the light-sensitive lenses on that darken, but still, with the mist this morning, it's better to just. I have them on the back of my head right now. There were a lot of riders on the right that I had not seen before. This guy in front of me is one of them. And a lot of riders come on these rides, have very poor social skills. They don't try to even get to know anybody, so they show up, meet no one new, and so if you see them somewhere else, you won't even know you rode with them. You know, we always laugh about that. They come and they hang with their clique. They hang with who they know, and they show no interest in meeting anyone else unless you're in that little group. So we just pay them no mind. We got our own thing we're doing too. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it happens in your group. But when they have a flat, they expect you to help them though. No, call your buddy you were hanging with in the parking lot. So when you go to these rides, don't feel compelled to go out of your way. Mingle with the people that are coming around and they're friendly and they're open to introducing themselves. The people that ignore you, ignore them just as well. They have nothing to offer you. Because by behaving like that, they close themselves off to access. Everyone has something to offer. So if you close yourself off, you lose. We're rolling down here at a good clip. I use the road as clear, the main lane. It's smoother too when you go over that little connection where they did the overpass to the road. There's always a little lip there. You never can seem to get it perfectly smooth. And even if they do, I think the earth moves, so there's always a bit of a gap. Look at this day. The visibility is okay. You can see. It's not like you're blinded right in front of you. You can see a good distance, maybe a mile, about 1.5 kilometers, something like that. A mile is about what, 1.6 kilometers? Yeah. So that's about what you can see, which is plenty, you know.
I just did, yeah.
I was just reminding Paul that periodically wipe the lens because there's a little bit of a buildup. You get used to viewing it like that, but you can see as soon as he wiped it, the picture was a little clearer. I don't know if Reen-X will help in this situation, but we usually put Reen-X on our wet rides to have the raindrops fall off. It's about time to put another coating on there anyway, because this is when we get our rains, the fall and the winter. We noticed that there are a few riders that look for the camera in this group. Where's the camera? This and that. So I make it a point to edit them out. This is a ride. Just ride your bike. If you happen to be on film, you will be on film. You don't need to start posing for the camera. I don't have time for that. So we've been noticing a few riders go out of their way to get on camera. This thing is not about any one rider. This is about educating the cycling community about how to ride in a group. So we've been a little more conscious of that. This ride is not a Hollywood ride where we hire actors to perform. These are just guys riding their bikes, and we just film it and use it as a tool to educate. So we don't need people to be posing. Just ride your bike. Forget about the camera. Don't be asking where it is. You know who you are. Bob had been at the front. They had tried to close the gap, and I guess he doesn't like this pace. So to save energy at a good pace, you want to sit close, draft within a foot or less of the person you're following, so you can maximize the benefits of the draft. The faster the ride, the tighter you need to be drafting. We slow for this light. It's a short light. Whenever I slow, I downshift, so I'm ready to go. I'm in the gear I need, and you will see. I remain seated. Look at the gap opening right here. All of this costs energy right there. He's got to work to get up there. All I did was sit and ride.
Good morning. Good morning.
You end up, that's Doug telling Paul good morning. I was not aware. I was hearing these guys talk because I'm only 2 riders up from them, and right now we're not going full gas by any means. But I'm saying it's not a conversational pace. You see Doug inching up away from Mike here, who wants to do too much chatting because it's getting faster and faster. You got to stay close, otherwise you waste a lot of energy. It's time to ride. There's nothing that important to be talking about right now. So don't let yourself get drawn into that. Somebody wants to chat, make sure you're secure. Let them sit in the wind and talk. You just make sure you're on a wheel. Watch the guy on the right. That's Doug. He's going to stay on Abby's wheel. He's watching. Because he's trying to avoid wasting energy. Right here is a lull in the pace. You see up there, look at the gap in front of Abby. And watch, keep your eye on Abby. He's going to do that same foolishness he does on every ride. Well, he will ride and decide that, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. But then here is this huge gap, then he waves you in to close it. Like you told him that was your goal on the ride, to be closing unnecessary gaps. But watch. He will let that gap grow after a while, and then Doug on the right will have to close it. I don't care for that. That is just, in my opinion, is rude. You're going to sit in the line, sit in the line. When you decide to leave the line, let people know immediately, or just get out of the way before the gap gets big. Especially at speed. It's one thing if we just starting to roll. But right here, we got a line, stay in the line. You notice that conversation didn't continue much longer. Doug is not participating in that foolishness. He's sitting on that wheel. So if Mike wants to talk, he can go to the left and be in the wind and chat. Now look, this is what I'm talking about. Look at Abby. He just let the gap open. Doug is confused, like, what the heck are you doing? That's exactly what Doug's looking at him like, that's the nonsense I can't stand. He does that crap every week. So I never let him get in front of me. I don't follow him. It's nonsense. Look at what Doug had to do. He had to work his tail off when he didn't need to. And then Paul Ilonga here is having to close the gap up to Mike's wheel. He does that foolishness every week. Mr. 500 miles a week. Can't take a pull. That's Patrick who just pulled off from the front. He was pulling. So don't do that. When you're in your group, if you decide you don't want to be where you are, make the decision quickly and let the rider behind you know so they can come up and not have to close more than a bike length. He just sat there and let the gap open. You saw how Doug looked like him, like, what the heck are you doing? And he rides all the time. So just because people ride bikes doesn't mean that they understand cycling. So there are cyclists and there are people who just ride bikes. Don't mix up the two. They're completely different creatures. A lot of people who ride bikes are clueless. They don't have a clue about anything that happens in the nuances of the sport, and that's fine, but they don't choose to educate themselves, and they make the same mistakes all the time, and a lot of them pay for it. You get dropped making foolish mistakes. I don't know what Mike is doing here. He's in the middle of these guys. I heard what they were talking about because I'm right up there. That's me up there, and I could hear that conversation. Talking about I'm between the two of you. Well, he had to tell them because that's not where you're supposed to be. He's the same one in a few kilometers going to want to talk to me about my jersey and wanting to buy one, wanting to know how much it costs. If you got to ask, you can't afford it. I told him, get up there because there was a gap. You will see it on film. And at that point, I decided I don't want to talk. So I just let him go and we formed our own group in the back. I don't come on these rides to sell anything. You want to buy it, go to the website. People buy those jerseys from all over the world. They don't come on Saturday to ask me questions. I don't know what they sell for. I don't handle that. I didn't pay for mine. We've been wearing these jerseys since 2017. He just noticed them. Really? I want to open your eyes now and then. We got other people locally that have bought the kit in the same group. He just noticed in the jersey. I'm like, come on. You can't pay attention to details. That jersey's not for you. You don't need to be wearing that kit. If you notice this whole time, I am sitting up there. I'm saving every ounce of energy because look at my heart rate, zone 1. And we're doing 38 kilometers an hour. I am sitting in there as tightly as possible. Minimal effort. That's what you do when you use your head. The French say, tête à jambe, head and legs. You ride with your head and legs, not just your legs. You guys saw the World Championship. If you didn't, you got to look at the clip. Julien Alaphilippe repeated 3 vicious attacks. The third one, no one could stay with him because he wanted it. That's what the French call riding with panache, style. No power meter, no radio, no nothing. Just attack when you feel like it. That's what it's about. Forget all that other stuff. It's just marketing nonsense. You don't need it. You got the legs, you put the power down. Nobody cares what your power meter is saying. The other riders were there. He rode off. 1 lap by himself. 1 solo. It's in the legs. So don't get suckered into all these other gadgets these people are selling. They're nice to have. They're not absolutely necessary. We go up the overpass here. We actually rode it very civilized. I remain seated. That's Max on the right there. He pulled off. They're about 19, 20 miles an hour. Somebody's bike is creaking. I love it when Paul and I ride. All you hear are our tires on the pavement. No creaks or nothing. So we crest the overpass and someone had accelerated but does not want to stay up there very long. So when we turn on Capitol Road, it will bunch up. It always happens. Same thing happens in competition. The pace gets real high, nobody wants to make a move. But I never let a gap occur where I was. That's why I'm at the front, because the rest of these guys are not serious. The guys at the front are serious. Patrick in the gray there is serious. Doug in the white is serious. And the other guy in the front, I didn't get his name, but you'll see him pull off. He's got green shoes on. He wasn't messing around either. So you want to follow the riders that mean business. The rest of the people, leave them behind, because when it really gets hot and heavy, they will be dropped. Because it takes too much effort to close those gaps that are left unnecessarily. And you can only do so many of that. So many of those efforts.
Left turn.
They know what a turn is. It's just a matter of getting close to it. We don't need to get over right now. We're not there yet. So right about here, we start to move over. I look in my mirror and I can see it's clear. I'll let them know. They'll come over. Then some genius in his car starts to honk. Because if he has to slow down, the planet Earth will cease its rotation around the sun. So we approach our turn here on Capitol Hill Road. You see where I am? Now watch my position. I'm gonna stay near the front. I'm holding my position. I was third in line. That's where I'm staying. The guy who had changed the pace on the overpass doesn't want to be at the front anymore. He's on the right in the black and pink there, sliding backwards. They've developed a skill for riding backwards that's amazing. I never learned that. You're either going to come around me or I'm going to stay where I am. And slide into the back. I maintain the same position I was in because I know on this road there's a bump coming up to where these guys like to accelerate before the downhill. If you're not close, you have to work harder. And it's just a waste of energy. Mike is still running his mouth instead of riding. We're not going hard enough. That's why he's able to talk. So in about 2 months, maybe in January, we'll find a way to quiet that. I just go ahead and get into a tuck, and I just roll past the two guys I was following. I was in front of Doug here, so now I'm in front, so I just take the lead. So we keep riding, keep the group moving, no messing around. I don't stay up there very long. I pull for a few strokes, then I go to the right. I'm still there right now, but as the road goes up, I will stand up and accelerate. You don't see me on camera. And then I drift to the right as they come around because I did not plan to work hard today. You notice these guys up here, ain't nobody talking? They're riding. That's why we're here. If you're able to talk, then you need to be going to the front and pulling. I pull off to the side, they come around. Paul's gonna go by with the camera here. This is when off camera, Mike asks me, where's the camera? That's where I got the idea, oh, he's riding for the camera. So I told her, I said, you want to be on camera? Get your butt to the front. I said, we filmed those in the front because Paul's up front, and I point to Paul. I said, he's got the camera up there. So this is Rabon Chapel Road. It's clear. There's nothing coming. There's nothing out here. So we turn, and this is where he starts to ask me about my jersey that we've been wearing for almost 5 years. Talking about I want one of those. I told him they're for sale on the website. I'm thinking I'm done. He wants to ask me what it costs. You got to ask. You can't afford it. Right there. He said, I want a jersey like that. I said, it's available for sale online. I'm trying to ride up to those guys. He wants to talk. Right there. So I slow down, and it's incredulous to me for him to ask me for the price of this jersey while I'm riding. Like I keep prices in my head. I don't handle that crap. So I told him, get up there. That's when you see him go, I decide I don't want to ride with him. I don't want to talk. So after a while, back off. I turn off the pace when I see Mark is back there. They're having trouble with the pace. So I go ahead, I look in my mirror, and I see Paul. I slow down for Paul. When Paul gets to me, we slow down for Mark, and then Mark is the ride leader. Mark's been traveling and stuff, so he hadn't been riding much. Those guys are hammering, so I decide I'm just going to stay here because I don't want to have any pointless conversations. We've been riding this kit for 5 years. People have purchased it. You've been here. You've just seen it. You really need to open your eyes. So when these guys come, I lift the pace again. I'm going to go with them, but then I notice that the only person here with me is Paul. The rest of the guys are having trouble back there. Whoever said car back is having trouble. I see them in my mirror. So I decided I turn off the power just a little bit so they can get on Paul's wheel. This is the way I was taught to ride. Instead of going to stop on a street corner, back off the pace. This is not a race. Back off the pace so all your riders can kind of come in. But these riders are expected to stay close so that they don't get gapped and get dropped easily. That's the way we were taught. You got to work to stay with the group. Nothing's free. They're not gonna be waiting for you. All this waiting around. You depending on people waiting on you, so you don't try to keep the gaps close. So once they get on Paul's wheel, I'm gonna stand and lift the pace a little bit. Because just in that turn, they got gap right there. I see them, they're on Paul's wheel, so then I lift the pace. So this is like group C on the road. No, this is group B right now. I think riders are gonna come around us. No, they already did. I got it backwards. Yeah, these guys already had come around. This is after they had come around. This is group C. And you'll hear Mark say,
in the parking lot here in just a minute.
Mark saying, we'll see how much good to talk in the parking lot. When the ride started off camera, he had suggested to them that they wait for people when they take turns at speed or whatever, if there are gaps. And so he's saying that, well, that let's see how much that talk, how much good that talk did. So Mark comes to the front. Paul's on his wheel. I'm behind the third rider, who is Mike. We call him Mike Gravel Bike because he likes gravel bike racing. I'm behind him. He's got a gravel bike with large tires. So he's at a big disadvantage in this group. There's too many speed changes for that. You're carrying too much unsprung weight down there. It just wears you out. But what Mark was saying, what he had suggested to the guys, that somebody had given him feedback saying that we're breaking up too much on the road, so that when they go around, I guess, corners or lights, let's wait till the group gets back together before you get going again. Kind of like that. So he was saying, let's see how much good that does. They end up waiting at 28:54. But to that effect, you still have to stay close. I'll go ahead and ride to the front. Just get right in front of him to give him a wheel. I'm looking, I can see him when I get up front, and I just keep it steady so he can settle into a rhythm. And we're all riding together. There's 4 of us here. Paulie Longa is in 3rd position. My gravel bike is behind him, and I'm leading right now. But what I was saying is that don't depend on people waiting for you. Work hard and try. If you try, then people will be more apt to help. But if you're depending on people waiting, and then you're going to be lackadaisical, and that foolishness that Abby did on Fishcreek just leaves a huge gap and then waves Doug into it. If he does that to me, I would just sit there and let the gap open. Once it gets big enough, then we'll see who's got the horsepower to close it. That's just nonsense. He does that crap all the time. I don't know what cycling, who taught him how to cycle in a group, but that's not the way you do it. You don't sit around and just leave gaps. You're tired or you don't want to be there, get out of the way quickly so the person behind you can get up there. You don't sit there and let it open. It annoys me because he does that crap week in and week out. He had the nerve last week to say he wants the younger guys to pull. Who the hell are the younger guys? Did they tell you they came to pull? So don't do that. Too many bad habits on these films. I got to talk about it. That's not cycling. What's the point of being in a group if you're going to be working your tail off like you're riding alone? No point to it. So if you're in a group and the gap's starting to open, a lot of riders that are diligent will just come around you anyway. They don't have to wait for you. But the reason why his gap got large was Doug knew he was not suffering. That's why Doug looked at him for an extended period of time as if to say, what the heck are you doing? He does that crap all the time, ride to the front for 10 seconds to show off, and then drifts to the back to suck wheel for 2 hours. We got time for that foolishness. In a race, we'll attack you. Ain't nobody gonna tow you anywhere. After 3 or 4 attacks, you will learn how to pull. So just know the character of a group varies. Group riding is different than competition. Competition is different. There's a different level of intensity. That's why they say racing is the best training. If you want to be a racer, you got to go race. Training is just a little bit of prep. It will never replicate the actual event and what happens there. What happens there is a whole different level. So this stuff that we're doing over here is nothing like racing. Nobody gonna let you sit out there be messing around and you say you want to sprint when that hill comes. We will attack so much there will be nothing left for you to sprint. By the time you get to a hill, nobody gonna tow you to the line unless you got teammates who are willing to do that. So yeah, there are people who cycle that are cyclists, and there are people who just ride bikes. Don't get them mixed up. The cyclists are students of the sport. They understand the nuances. And we just smile when we see all this foolishness going on. I'm pointing these things out because I don't want these bad habits that are shown on these films to go unnoticed. So as we approach this corner here, he says clear back. It sounded like car back. Yeah, this is why you have to be very careful talking. It's very windy and breezy here, so we can't understand it. I take the corner and I back off the power to wait for Mark to get in my slipstream. I look back, I see him. He goes all the way. I don't know what he's doing way over there, but anyway, I think he was looking for something. I don't know. But once I resume, I notice he comes to the front, so I just go ahead and get on his wheel. This is the part that wasn't clear to me, because the reason myself and Paul waited was because Mark was suffering on that corner. He wasn't back there because he wanted to be. He was back there because the pace was high. So I can't figure out why he decided to take a pull here. That's not how I was taught and how I learned, when I competed. It's like, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't just sit in the back and kill yourself coming around here. If you're struggling and all of a sudden you feel better, fine. But you were already struggling back there. So to finish this day, what you do is your goal should be, I'm going to sit in for the rest of the ride. Because once you get dropped once, you don't miraculously get stronger. I mean, unless you're just having a bad moment. But he's really killing himself up here. Look at his body language. He's really pushing the thing. And then he's going to pull to the right when he's done. Like he's spent. Because I can tell his speed drops. And I just moved by right there. His speed, I did not slow down. He did. I'm just doing the same thing. And I continue. So my rhythm doesn't change. And then Paul tells him to watch out as he's coming with me. So really, why not save that energy? Because you're going to need it to ride with these guys, because you're going back home with them. Paul and I are going into the forest. We're going to do an additional 5 hours to what you see here, because the film time says 54. We rode about 45 to meet them. That's almost 2 hours. We're going to do another 5 hours. So we got a different thing that we're doing. That's why we're riding steadily here. We're not worried about those guys. This is October. This is the time you're supposed to get back, hang out with your family and friends that haven't seen you because you've been training real hard for your events. Whether you're doing Ironman, time trial, whatever. This is the time of year you back off, socialize with your family, see the dentist, get a physical, whatever, if you need them, to make sure you're healthy. So come November, you start getting ready for your new season. This is not the time to be trying to peak unless you have a late event coming up. And this just applies to people that have a periodization training program that they're following, either on their own or with a coach. There are certain times of the years you need to back up so that you can stay fresh mentally and physically. He comes around again as the road goes up. Well, he had just appeared to have given his all back there, and yet he's doing it again. I just ride up to him and sit on. I'm in the same gear. I just pedal it faster. And the grade kind of, you can see my cadence dropped. I'm still in the same gear, but he really didn't go that hard very long. So when someone is giving you a pull because you're struggling, sit in so you can rest up and wait till you feel better. Don't feel obligated to take a pull. Right there, I'm not even pedaling. He's not really pedaling that hard. So I was like, okay, I think he just likes to go hard on the uphill sections of these rides. That's just something Mark likes to do. So he continues to like make me soft. I'm behind him, I'm soft pedaling. If you look at my stroke, I'll pedal, and then soft pedal. He's not really pouring it on. And in a little bit, I just go ahead and start the ride up the climb right here, because he's not really doing anything there. He should have just stayed at the back. There was no point to that. So I just go ahead and pour it on. Just go a little harder. About 3 watts per kilo, something like that. It's not that much of a grade, like 2% maybe. Paulie Longa is on my left. I see him. I go ahead and let him come around, and I drift to the left because shortly the road starts to go downhill. We don't back off. The two of us gap Mark and Mike, who are back there. He doesn't turn the camera around, but it's clear. We can tell. So we don't stop. We go there and we get to the corner and we go ahead and take off, do our own thing. So I come around him here. I don't want the speed to drop. The road is going downhill, so it doesn't require a whole lot of watts. I'm trying to keep the effort the same at the bottom of zone 4. That's what we're doing back there. So the point is that a lot of people ride bikes a lot, but they don't really understand the sport. They're not what we call students of the sport. Not everybody has to be, but just keep that in mind before you decide to follow or copy someone. Be careful who you copy, even the pros.
Hello, you legends. On 149, we're gonna visit Bailey Grove today. We haven't been there in ages. Beautiful day. We left the group. We're doing our own thing, and it's lovely out here. I mean, we're inside the forest right now. We'll go ahead and pass the camera to my brother. We're gonna trade places from time to time.
The fog has lifted. We head south in the Sam Houston National Forest on Highway 149. Lots of rollers out here. This is the hardest direction of this, I believe. We're headed south towards Hidden Forest Road. We're going to end up passing Hidden Forest and go through Bailey Grove, go back to Dacus, Mount Moriah. Those are all off camera. And then we film our excursion on Jackson Road south. I rode through. Paul's filming. You can see he has a nice, smooth, clean shoulder. And we'll get into a rhythm here. So based on your plan, when you ride with a group, you have to control your efforts so that you can achieve what you're trying to do that day. So we had a bigger ride plan, and the day just got more pleasant the longer we were out there. You can see it's 21 Celsius, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, very mild temperatures. I'm telling him that the bike feels good, my shoes feel good, everything. The benefits of a proper fit, which allows you to ride in comfort and efficiency for extended periods of time. You want to be efficient? It starts with being comfortable on your bike, and you dial everything in. So you don't have any numb hands or anything. I told him, I said, BEA useful from the movie Bruce Almighty. The roads just look so pretty. It may look flat, but it's not. These little bumps are around 3%. Look at the gradient, 4% up there registered, probably 5. It's like they hit you And you can't really tell that you're going up, you just feel it. And you've got to have proper gear selection. Great lessons here, but look in the distance, see the little mounds. This area is frequented by a lot of cyclists and motorcyclists for its solitude and beautiful sweeping turns. You can hear Paul downshift. So I continue to keep the rhythm the same. The road's going to kick up a bit. It really kicks up here. There's a little street on the right as we go across it. Look at the grade changes. 3%. I think it's higher than that. 4%. There you go. You feel that more than anything. Paul's going ahead and coming through. We're staying on the shoulder as we change position. He takes the lead, I get the camera. I don't know if it's here, but I start messing with the cows. May not be here. I think it's later on. I get the camera and the cows are there, and I tell them we only eat chicken, and I said no, we only eat plants, and they're just looking at me. Road goes up here slightly. We're still in the forest. We have not exited the Sam Houston National Forest yet.
What you guys working on?
The cows, yeah,
Donkey in there.
they're looking at me. There was a donkey. They're hanging around this little thing. Looks like almost like a well, like a drinking fountain. So I asked them what they were working on. I think the camera's rattling. I've got the camera in my hand, and I think it's touching the bars a little bit. That's what you heard there. I was kind of playing with different angles and different shots just to get the terrain in. We have a lot of live oak trees out here, the native to the area. Also a lot of pine trees. Keeps this area really cool. It's nice because they will never be cut down because it's a national forest. It always keeps this area cooler than in the city. So in the winter, it's colder when you come out here. And you gotta dress accordingly. It's about 5 degrees cooler. At least that. I go ahead and roll through. Paul takes the camera. So if you're passing somebody that close, like you just saw me do on this shoulder, make sure your bars do not connect. Because if your bars connect, it's gonna be hard for you to stay upright. There's cyclists going the opposite way. So we're basically holding an endurance pace at this point in the ride. As the road goes to the right here, it kicks up a bit. So you have to monitor your rhythm and decide whether you're in your most optimal ratio. Paul has different alerts set on his new Garmin. He's got the Garmin 1, I think it's a 1K Plus or something like that. Oh, is it 1300? I think whatever the latest model is. Yeah, I think he set certain alerts. That's what you're hearing, those beeps. I turned off all the alerts that came standard on my 1K. I don't use them. I primarily use the cadence function, time of day. I like to know the heading, meaning north, south, so forth and so on. I like to know the grade. I made a video a while back about the training pages and what I chose to set. The Garmin will let you set different training pages that have different data fields that you can choose what you want to display. There's a slight downhill here. You still want to keep your rhythm close to optimal. It's just beautiful out here. And this road is not very busy. You get a car now and then. I think we saw more motorcyclists than we did cars. They use this as part of the route for a local Grand Fondo called the RDBC. So Paul comes through, hands me the camera. He looks a little tired here when he comes through. It's like he doesn't really want to pedal much. Since it's a mild day, I was probably drinking maybe every 15-20 minutes, something like that. When it's hotter, I drink more frequently, just little drinks, just to stay ahead. You don't want to fall behind. That's the stick of the camera. I was not aware at the time. It must have been touching the bars. Oh, I know why. I have it in the drops. I have the extender on, and I have it in front of the brake lever so I can have access to the brakes. And the back of the stick must be touching the front of my caliper. And I got quiet there. This is a good shot, actually. I'm in the drops behind him. The stick extends, I think, up to about probably maybe a foot. 12 inches. So I'm holding it in the drops on the left as we ride here. Gives a good shot. I went ahead and switched the camera there to my right hand. In a little bit, I'm going to roll on Paul's right. Then I switch again to my left as I go by, so we can exchange. So he gets the camera. And I roll to the front. Look at my cadence. We're getting closer to Bailey Grove, which is part of the route that we took on the way back. We hadn't been on Bailey Grove in the longest time. We rode that off camera because we had planned to film Jackson Road. So you want to be able to tolerate higher cadence, start with a good fit, and then train your neuromuscular system. I'm pedaling at 110 plus RPMs, and I can do that for a long period of time. We're nearing Bailey Grove. We're going to turn off this highway and take this quiet, it's kind of a residential road, but very challenging.
There we go.
Hello, you legends! We're on 1486, headed south. Look at these boys. What's going on, fellas? We'll only eat chicken.
This is why I'm messing with the cows.
In fact, we'll only eat plants.
They're just looking at
wrapping
me.
up this ride. We figure we get some more clips for you all. It turned out to be a beautiful day. Look at the sun has come out. The sun has come out in Central Texas.
Yeah, the start of the day was
behind you, I was doing in the
really kind of grim.
So I moved ahead a bit. It's okay, it's straight. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's debris.
People just throw trash all over the highway. It's just ridiculous.
Yes, it's beautiful.
That's like throwing trash in your living room. Nobody's gonna come from somewhere else to clean where you live. It starts with you. In our area, we have people that volunteer to go out on the highway and pick up trash. Our streets close to where we live, people are walking around picking up trash because people litter everywhere. Just no respect for their own environment. It's sad but true. This is a nice little grade. It kind of bites in. As he says 3%. I think it might be between 3 to 5. We're about 2 kilometers from the turnoff onto Jackson Road. These are all rural, secondary roads. They're not major thoroughfares. If you don't know the area, you're gonna have to have a reason for being on these roads. I'm adjusting the strap on my helmet. Got a new helmet, so it's still settling in. I'm riding a 57, 58 inch gear. We're going into the wind and this grade. And this entire time I'm thinking about, okay, we got to save it for Jackson Road because that's a fun road. And it's also a Strava segment. So whenever I go through there, if I'm feeling good, I like to give it the stick a bit. And right before we turn up in the distance there's a lot of debris over there. So I checked and then used the road to get around it. But up in the distance is about a 5.5% climb that we turn left on. And it feels like you're pedaling in mud if you're in the wrong gear. We're getting closer to the turn here. The road begins to go up. You will see the watts go up. I want to get through that turn quickly because there's a blind hill in the distance as you turn. The turn is on the left. I checked for traffic, nothing's coming. You'll see me let Paul know that we're turning left. This is where it really bites. If you look at the grade over there, what does this say? 2%, 3%. It gets there in a hurry, so it's going to be changing. Yeah, it says 4 now. It's got to be a little more than that. Right here is where we turn. I'll let the other road users know we're turning. See, it says 5, 6. It's probably 6.5%. It's steep. If you're in the proper gear, you get through there quickly. The wind's coming from the right and in our face. So you'll see me straddle that white line so that Paul can stay on my left and be in the draft. So Paul did the decision selection for what we're wearing today. Paul decided that we should use our retro kit.
It's a cool breeze coming up.
Yeah, as we turned here, the wind picked up and it was nice and cool. It says 31C, but it felt cooler.
Nice, man. What a day.
Yeah, it was a fabulous day. And that's the way you need to do it. If the weather's nice, go longer if you have the time. If it's terrible weather, shorten the ride. It all adds up. It has a lot to do with your morale. I mean, we're really pumped on this section here. You can tell by my pedaling action. I'm having fun. There's a little bit of a bump here, not much. It's kind of a false flat kind of thing more than anything. But look at this road, it's beautiful. Paul's gonna come take the lead. You don't need fancy wheels and all that foolishness. Just a pair of wheels on your bike. Get most of your Ks in. Save your fancy wheels for your big events. And even that, they're not necessary. It's only an advantage if you're at the top levels where the microseconds make a difference. So save your dollars so you can have time to ride your bike. People keep asking me on the channel, when are you going to get a carbon bike? Been there, done that. Had one. Didn't do much for me. I wasn't that impressed. Had one of the top ones, Calfee. C-A-L-F-E-E. They make the top stuff. It didn't fit me that well because at the time, the shop that ordered it, I think they really botched the order, but it's one of those things where I wasn't that impressed with it, and I just prefer steel and tie bikes. So that's what I ride. I do prefer custom bikes because of my requirements for fit. Those of you who've been on the channel, you've seen the videos I've made about it. I need a bike that is shallower than 73 degrees to accommodate my long femur. It's not that unusual, just that the manufacturers have gotten lazy over the years and making fewer sizes and charging more money. So no. Paul sent me a book, a bike made by a company in Italy, some Battagling, I think it's called. Giovanni Battagling, I think, was a racer back in the day, and his son is making custom bikes in Italy, and they're special, steel. So God willing, that would be the bike with Campagnolo 12-speed on there. That would be a dream machine. But we'll see how things go. But right now, it's not a need. You only need one bike, really. It's good to have two, at the most. But focus more on your fit and having time to ride than stuff. That's why I told that guy to get up there. He wants to talk about stuff. This is not the time. You shop on your own time. We're out here to ride. It's time to ride. You see my position? We're going into the wind. I'm adjusting the little clip on the helmet that goes under your ear, because this is the first long ride with my Limar, and I'm trying to get it to just feel right. It's kind of like the Giro Synth in styling, but a little more exotic. It's got an awesome looking exhaust. You have to see it up close. But I was very pleased with the aesthetics and the function. I picked a white helmet for this ride because it was overcast, and it was forecasted to remain overcast. As you saw, we started out in a fog. So whenever possible, if it's foggy, wear something light. You know, we have lights on our bike, so that's fine. Wear anything, but I like to have the lid, because that's what people see from the front. The lid and your feet, if you can. Those shoes that we wear have awesome reflectors on them. When the light hits them, they really pop on the back of the heel. And then on the front, there's a strap from old school, like the old school toe clips. There's a strap that goes across the front that is a big reflective tab, the whole thing. So it's very visible. I like this shot. Paul moved over a little more. See how quiet it got? I guess that's where the draft is, because the wind just disappeared. And then right here, you hear the wind come back. So that's a good way to gauge where you are. That was actually a good exercise. Yeah, we're pounding into the wind, and this road is rolling. You know, it's not more than 3% at any given time, but you're constantly having to shift. You see in the distance how it dips down, then drifts to the left and kicks up. And look how the trees are almost reaching to touch each other as they form this canopy. It's just beautiful. I mean, who wouldn't want to ride out here? It's pretty. There's no traffic either. The material in our kit, it's they call it this, I think the Sleek 2.0 or something like that. It's a little bouncier than I would like with stuff in the pockets. Yeah, some dead animal, Paul says it stinks. There was a dead animal on the side of the road. We see a lot of the vultures, they gather like they're at a funeral, they're all black. So that's what he's talking about. But we got through there quickly enough. What I was saying is that when the pockets are loaded on this Sleek 2.0 or 3.0, whatever they call it now, the material is so bouncy and stretchy that when you're out of the saddle, there's a bit more movement than I'd like. Like, watch the pockets move. And the camera's not even in my pocket. We're actually using it. But you feel that. I don't like that movement. You feel it when you stand. And our other kids don't do that. So, you know, it is what it is. But that's how we make our selection, based on how well those pockets perform when they're loaded. Other than that, this kit functions well. You can pretty much wear it most of the year except for at the hottest times. Because when it's very, very hot, I don't care for the material. It's a little thicker than I'd like. It's more of a mid-weight jersey. That's why you can use it most of the year. But when it's super hot, no. You know, when it's approaching 40 Celsius, 35 to 40 Celsius, above 35 Celsius, I wouldn't be wearing this kit. We have another sample of it, a copy that's made out of a lighter material, and we'd probably wear that. So you want to look like the way we look on our bikes, you have to invest the time, and you have to go ahead and get the help you need to get you dialed in. That enables you to ride longer in comfort. You'll be able to ride hands-free, you drink while you ride. You know, there's not a whole lot you can't do on the bike. And the bike looks like it's an extension of your body. I stand here, the road kicks up, you can see it visually. And if you look at the grade above the metric there, the cyclist riding, it says 1%. But we're going into the wind, and I just stood so I wouldn't have to shift because it felt better. Just to keep that gear rolling. Every time I felt it slowing down, I would stand or kick it, just to kick it over. To keep the tempo the same. We're going about 20 to 23 miles an hour thereabouts into the wind. Get a little lower there. you listen to how quiet our machines are, it's not an accident. We spend a specific amount of time working on our bikes on maintenance Mondays for the most part to make sure that we don't have any surprises when we're out there. You need to make sure your bike is tuned. In fact, as I do this narration, and the guys had posted on the Sunday ride from Team RR that the day was saved by Rob. Rob is a mechanic from a local shop in the area. And, you know, he didn't go on the ride to work on somebody's bike. So that's inconsiderate. When I'm riding, I don't do that. You get out there and you didn't keep up with your bike, you're going to be calling for a ride. I'm not getting myself all messy because you chose to mess around and not keep up your machine. You're going to be riding miles from home. Take care of the thing that you're riding on. If there was a horse, you'd make sure the horse was healthy if you're going to ride it. So the same thing, make sure your bike is tuned. That's your responsibility. Nobody goes to a bike ride to work on your bike. They go to a bike ride to ride. So you might want to make sure that you don't get upset when they leave you out there to wait on a ride. I mean, we understand that certain things can be avoided, but we can tell neglect versus something that just is a catastrophic failure per se. We should be a few kilometers from the 149 junction. That's where the Strava segment ends. And before you get there, it kind of kicks up. I don't know if I stood or not. I may have. It looks like I like this rhythm than I. So I sit next to the white line. The wind's blowing from our right. That keeps Paul a little over to my left, but we're still using maybe a quarter of the lane, let's say, you know, maybe close to, not quite half. But we have a slight echelon. He's a little further back than he should be. I think he should be closer. And now he moves up as I speak, as I talk about it. Right here it starts to kick off. I can tell by just watching my body language. And then you can look at the grade up there. It says, I think I see 2%. I'm not sure what the parameters of those beeps are that Paul has, but it was beeping quite a bit. I'm not sure what the beeps do. I turned mine off because they're kind of a distraction. But you're hearing it because he's holding the camera and the microphones are close to it. And so this is part of what we did on Saturday. I hope you all got a chance to get some K's in. But keep those doctors fired.